Greetings, fellow ghouls. Thanks for stopping by. Would you like to hear another tale from my collection of true scary stories? Let me find a good one for us. Okay. Yes, how about this one? As I was saying, how about this one here? When I was in middle school, there was one of those indoor laser tag arenas in my town. It was called Shadowland, and it was maybe a 45-minute drive from my house. I went to countless birthday parties there over the years, and the space was so huge that people could invite the whole class, and there would still be tons of room to run around. There were arcade games in the lobby, and a connected area that served pizza and soda. The actual arena itself was a massive room with 2 separate levels. There were towers, hallways, secret passageways, and more. As the name implies, the decor was decidedly spooky. There was a loose Halloween motif going on, with life-size creatures and statues scattered throughout the halls. Gargoyles, zombies, witches. They were kind of cheap-looking, but still eerie under the circumstances. During the actual matches, the main lights would switch off, and the area would be lit by small patches of colorful lights, black lights, and moving lasers. Last but not least, they would pump gallons of fog into the arena during the matches. Though running around in the dark and shooting laser beams at my friends was always a blast, I remember finding the spooky decorations to be slightly unsettling, especially in the dark, illuminated by the harsh greens, pinks, and blues, and veiled by the heavy artificial fog. I remember one statue in particular giving me the heebie-jeebies. Deep into the arena, tucked away in one of the corners, was a life-size Medusa statue. The hallway around it had a Cave of Treasures theme going on, and the murals on the wall were of piles of gold and jewels with scattered skeletal remains. The Medusa itself was at least 6 feet tall and wore a black cloak. Its face was sculpted into an anguished scream, and the snakes growing from its head were so lifelike, sometimes I could swear I saw them move. In reality, it was probably just a pretty good mask on a mannequin in a cloak. But coming across it in the dark, twisted halls of the arena, it got to me. In high school, my friends and I actually continued to go to Shadowland once in a blue moon. It was really for kids, but we would go anyway, half ironically and half chasing that middle school nostalgia for simpler times. We would meet up in the parking lot on a Saturday night, crack a few beers, get a little buzz on, and go in for a match or two. Instead of laser tag, we'd call it rager tag. We did this maybe 5 or 6 times throughout high school and had some good laughs on every occasion. At some point not long after our last visit, Shadowland closed down. In retrospect, I'm not sure if sending a bunch of sugar-high kids into a dark obstacle course was a great idea. I never heard why exactly the place went out of business, but for whatever reason it did. We all kind of forgot about Shadowland until one night the following summer. I was home alone on my computer when I heard my phone buzzing across the room. It was a text in the group chat with a few of my closest buddies, Jackson, Zach, Forrest, and Will. Jackson, the de facto leader of the group, had simply texted 3 words. Rager tag tonight? I texted him back right away, wondering if maybe he was drunk. Shadowland closed down, remember? My phone buzzed again almost instantly. Yeah, I remember. Just 'cause it's closed doesn't mean we can't get in. Probably still fueled by that middle school nostalgia, Jackson suggested that we all meet up in the parking lot crack a few cold ones, and break into the Shadowland building for one last round of fun. The place was sort of in the middle of nowhere, so there really wasn't much concern about getting caught trespassing. With Shadowland closed down, it seemed unlikely that there'd be any security or anything like that. Ultimately, the group chat warmed to the idea, and we all decided to meet up there in 1 hour. We all got there around 10 p.m. I hadn't seen the place since it had closed. The big Shadowland sign above the door was gone. I remember there had been these spooky tree decals in the front windows. It looked like they'd been ripped off. The building now just looked like a big, vacant shell, like one of those abandoned strip malls you see on the side of the highway. Anyways, we cracked open some beers and messed around in the parking lot. We had a lot of fond memories of that place, and it was sort of sad to see it all run down. Eventually, Jackson popped his trunk and pulled out a set of bolt cutters. He headed to the front entrance, ready to clip the large chain wrapped around the door handles. Just before he could, though, our friend Zach called out from the side of the building. He'd gone over to take a pee in the bushes when he'd noticed that one of the windows back there was pretty broken. There was a decent-sized hole in the bottom, and we could slip right in. One by one, we made our way through the hole, crawling inside and emerging into the old lobby/arcade area. We had brought a few flashlights with us, and upon switching them on, we saw that a number of the old arcade games were still there. They had seen better days, and the power wasn't on, but I recognized the X-Men game in particular that I'd probably wasted hundreds of quarters on. It looked like the place had been sort of half disassembled. There was tons of debris on the floor, and the big TV screens that would display the scores from the laser tag matches were missing. Additionally, I remember there had been another big Shadowland sign above the front desk, giant block letters with a dragon-like creature wrapped around them. That was gone as well. We continued deeper into the building, through the double doors and into the briefing room. This big room with benches in it where you would sit while the employees explained the rules of the matches. There hadn't been much in this room to begin with, so to find it empty wasn't much of a surprise. The paint was chipping off the wall murals, though, detailed paintings of spooky dungeons with orc-like creatures. Jackson kicked open the next set of doors, and we all gasped. The doors opened up into the main arena area, which looked basically untouched. Though dust and debris covered most of the space, the countless decorations, mannequins, and statues were all still there. Straight ahead was a small tower from which we used to team up and blast our enemies, and the large styrofoam gargoyles on each corner were still intact. Well, mostly anyway. It looked like a couple of their wings had fallen off. Zach pulled out another six-pack, and we climbed up into the tower. While we reminisced, Jackson kept looking up at one of the gargoyles. Eventually, he interrupted. "You think I could fit this guy in the back of my car? Imagine bringing this to my dorm room in the fall." We all laughed, but Jackson was serious. Together, we kicked it off the little platform it was on and moved it to the doorway. It was a few feet tall and really didn't weigh much. I had to admit, having that in your dorm room would certainly turn heads. Looking around at all the other slowly deteriorating decorations, we decided to split up and each take a souvenir. Who knows how long they'd be here before someone else moved into the building and Shadowland was forgotten forever. Jackson went to carry the gargoyle out to his car. Forrest and Will went to the second level of the arena, while I followed Zach on the ground level. He had a souvenir in mind. It was this weird little gremlin sort of thing hanging in a rubber cage. I held it while he climbed up and knocked it free from its housing. "So any thought as to which one you want?" Zach asked me. As he climbed back down and grabbed the little gremlin, I took another look around. I had thought that maybe the place would be a bit less spooky without all the colored lights and fake fog, but all of these worn-out decorations sitting in the derelict arena, lit only by the dusty beams of our flashlights, I found myself getting the heebie-jeebies once more. I think I'm good, I said. Let's just get out of here. Zach and I walked through the maze of the arena, back in the direction we'd come from. We turned the corner and found ourselves in a partially collapsed hallway. The second level of the arena had given way, and a large pile of debris made the hallway tricky to navigate. Well, wait, did we miss a turn? Zach asked. We didn't come this way before. We turned around and went down the nearest hallway, which also looked unfamiliar. I traced the beam of my flashlight along the wall. The paintings depicted a creepy cave, full of piles of gold and jewels. My stomach sank. I realized where we were. I slowly turned towards the corner of the hallway, remembering the Medusa statue that stood there for so many years, the twisted snarl of its hellish expression etched into my young mind. But it wasn't there. My beam illuminated the entire corner, including the little platform where it once stood. It was gone. I breathed a sigh of relief. What? Zach asked. Oh, nothing, I replied. Do you remember the Medusa statue that used to be here? Zach interrupted me suddenly. What, do you mean that one? Zach pointed his flashlight down the hall, and I jumped. About 20 feet from us, standing in a different little niche, was the Medusa statue. Zach laughed as I jumped. Still scared of it, eh? I laughed nervously as well. It's just not where I remember it being, I said. Well, maybe it got moved. You sure you don't want it for your dorm room? He asked. I'll pass, I said, and we continued down the hall. We took the next left, trying to remember our way through the cavernous arena. Eventually, after a few more twists and turns, we stopped. Are we actually lost? Zach asked. Well, it looks a little different than it used to, I replied. Zach called out to the rest of the group. Hey, where are you guys? Forrest and Will answered, sounding pretty close. Zach and I rounded the corner, expecting to arrive at one of the more open areas of the arena, but instead we stopped in our tracks. It was the Medusa. We were back in the hallway with the Medusa. She was standing there with her twisted scream. Wait, what? How is that possible? Are we going in circles? Zach started to sound a bit spooked as well. I directed my flashlight at the walls of the hallway. The paintings depicted a spooky swamp with zombies rising from the green waters. Wait, that wasn't right. Medusa was always in the hall with the Cave of Treasures theme. Had the statue moved? My stomach turned and I stepped back. I grabbed Zach's shoulder. I think that's a person, I whispered. What? He whispered back. I think that someone is wearing the Medusa costume and following us. This isn't the hallway where it was before. Maybe there's more than one Medusa, he offered. My eyes remained locked on the screaming statue. It just stood there, motionless. I would have remembered if there'd been more than one. We backed away slowly down the hall. I kept the beam of my flashlight focused on the statue until we rounded the corner. Zach turned to continue onward, but I stopped him. Wait, I said. We can catch it moving. Zach realized what I meant, and we waited for a second or two before popping back around the corner and shining the flashlight down the previous hallway. The Medusa was gone. Zach and I screamed and ran. We weren't exactly sure where we were going, as long as it was somewhere else. We careened through the winding halls, tripping over ourselves until, crash! We slammed into Forrest, Will, and Jackson back by the tower area where we'd started. I was about to speak, but Forrest and Will did first. We gotta get out of here. We helped each other up and ran through the double doors, back through the briefing room and main lobby arcade, scrambling back out of the hole in the window. After catching our breath for a few moments in the parking lot, we asked Forrest and Will what they had seen and why they'd been running. Apparently, while wandering the arena looking for their own souvenirs, they had stumbled upon evidence that people had been squatting, in the abandoned Shadowland building. Sleeping bags, burners, beer bottles, drugs. They had a whole setup on the far end of the arena on the second level. On their way back to tell us about their discovery, they had heard voices and footsteps following them. Then Forrest, Will, and Jackson asked why Zach and I had been running. We recounted the tale of the moving Medusa statue. It seemed as though one of the Shadowland squatters had put on the Medusa mask and cloak and decided to scare the pants off of us. We got back into our cars and left right away. We never went back to Shadowland, and some shipping company or something moved into the building a few years later. I'll always remember, though, how a place where I used to get cheap thrills as a kid managed to give me perhaps the greatest scare of my life. Ooh, another spooky one, fellow ghouls. Maybe think twice about exploring any abandoned buildings in your area. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.